Welcome to episode 68 of the Babes Talking Business podcast. We have an epic episode for you today. In particular, if you are a business owner, this episode is all about marketing and networking to grow your business. We have special guest Ayesha on the show, who is the founder and CEO of Grow the Social, a digital marketing and PR agency for major brands and celebrities, personal brands, things like that. She also does influencers, and she is extremely passionate about inspiring people through her various platforms to empower them, educate them, and inspire them. And you are just going to love Ayesha. She is a vibe. So she has spoken globally all around the world. She's hosted events and worked with incredibly iconic brands like Nike and Bumble, CTV News Canada, Toronto Blue Jays, and so much more. And her area of expertise is supporting others to thrive in business and to make their dreams become a reality by growing their social presence. And you are just going to love all of her tips, because obviously with us being in network marketing, a big component of our business is not only creating new relationships and building relationships, but it's also about networking and getting out there and getting your name out there and people knowing what you're up to. So Ayesha just nails it, because she will be able to help you. Doesn't matter what type of business model you use, whether you're in e-commerce or you have a brick and mortar business, a network marketing business, whatever it is. Today's episode is for everybody, because you are going to get schooled on how to have more social presence and add value and have people magnetize to you. So let's get straight into it. I hope you enjoy it.
What if we could show you how to create an additional income stream that feels inspiring to you and leverages not only off your passions, but your zone of genius? Head over to babesinbusiness.net/side hustle to download our free side hustle guide, a 40-page guide where we help you not only come up with your business idea, but help you set your rate, find your potential customers, help make your first few sales, come up with your point of difference, and ensure you have a profitable business that you can scale to create a life and career by design.
Babes Talking Business, our podcast, is the sister brand to Babes in Business. It's our passion project geared towards female entrepreneurs, professional women, side hustlers, those with a day job, and those full-time mamas striving to build their empire on the side, whether it's a traditional or non-traditional business, investments, startup, companies, or online social media influencers.
Our podcast is a safe place where women can be vulnerable, honest, and tune in to be educated and supported to learn about the ins and outs of business, the highs and lows, and feel comfortable to talk about finances and multiple streams of income, along with the lingo that often comes with it that intimidates and prevents a lot of us women from approaching these subjects altogether.
We not only mentor and encourage fellow entrepreneurs tuning in to build their own successful businesses, but teach them how to build confidence in themselves, reconnect with their why, let go of jealousy, and ultimately learn the power in connection, because at the end of the day, that is what life and business is all about.
This is a no BS podcast where we are committed to showing you what really happens behind the scenes of businesses' pretty highlight reels, so you can be reassured you are not the only one in the trenches, and we can hopefully empower you with ideas on how to run your life and business in a way that feels energizing, inspiring, and authentic to you and your mission.
We are your hosts. I'm 𝗦𝗢𝗔𝗟𝗦, and one of my biggest passions and missions in life is to revolutionize the way that women create abundance, to show you can really have it all and create your next level, wildest dreams whilst being in a total state of ease and flow. I'm a blogger, a coach and mentor to thousands of women around the world, a professional network marketer, a course creator, and above all, I'm just your everyday girl next door.
And I am 𝗦𝗢𝗓. I'm a published author, life and mindset coach, and professional network marketer. When I was studying my psychology degree, I stumbled across the term life above zero, which became my personal and professional mission, to inspire others to create a life that they love, instead of just settling for mediocrity and just doing what society expects you to do. I love helping women find clarity and fulfillment in their lives, relationships, and careers. So, on that note, let's talk business. Yeah. So I'm so excited. We have Ayesha on this week on the show. And what I love most about this is we connected on social media. I know we always talk about the power of social media, but I think we're fangirling each other, being like, what do you do? Let's catch up for a virtual coffee. And I loved hearing your story in business as well. Obviously, you work in the business space, but just hearing being a young woman with a dream, self-made hustler, I thought it'd be really cool to have you on the podcast talking about your own business story, and then that way you can share your advice to any other women who maybe have a dream and haven't started a business yet, or in the middle of business and need to know how to network and how to grow their business, because you obviously work in PR. So maybe we can start with, Hun, tell our audience a little bit about you. Where did you start before you got into business, and what inspired you to get into PR?
Love that. So thank you guys so much. I am all about always providing value. So I'm so excited for this conversation because I know the women listening, I hope they leave here like fired up with just inspiration, just motivation, and ready to crush it, because I truly believe with everything, and I think this is what even sparked the PR. I'm so abundance minded. I love connecting. I think abundance is our birthright. And even getting into PR, it's so much of that. So a little bit of background on myself. I am from Canada, Toronto, Ontario, but now I live in LA. So I'm 22 years old, wanted to move to LA like I feel like every girl. I've wanted to move to LA when I was in school. People thought I was crazy from my small town. Like, you're crazy. Like, everyone wants to move to LA. Like, good luck. And I'll spare the details on like the visa and the legal stuff, but wanting to move out here, obviously it's a big jump from a small town to living in a big city like Los Angeles, let alone like being a Canadian. So getting employed wasn't really an option because I did just go through this process about 2 years ago. So things have shifted a lot from like 10 years ago. So my main thing, and I've always been an entrepreneur at heart, growing up in college and we call it university in Canada, I was doing fitness coaching and I had my online coaching business. I was doing stuff on the influencer marketing side, working with brands like Movement Watches, Daniel Wellington, Nike, like a lot in the early stages of influencer marketing. And that kind of sparked my love for social media back when I was like 17, 18, 19, both with doing brand campaigns for brands when it was early phase, and also when I was an online fitness coach. So leveraging social media to get clients through sharing my love for fitness and what I did. And just skyrocketing that journey when I started traveling out to LA in my early 20s, I was like, wow, okay, I want to live here. And then how do I make this happen? It was that visa process. So being an entrepreneur, I had to establish my own business here, but let alone not just establish a business, but in order to get your visa, you have to have a business that is going to scale. And it kind of really forced me to, at 22, to be like, okay, I need to create a business plan. I need to make sure that this business is going to scale and create job opportunity here in the US. So really lit like a fire under me to have a timeline to do that, because you can't stay in the States forever. So skyrocketing that journey a little bit, I kind of came to this clarity that there are so many personal brands like myself. There's coaches, consultants, leaders in the space, people in network marketing. There's so many amazing people online, but social media is such a driver of their business. And I saw it truly, as much as people think it's a one-woman show or a one-man show, there's always a team behind the whole thing. Even today, I had an influencer on my podcast, and she's a huge influencer in the space, and she opened up about it. Like, we have a team of like 10 people, someone for this, and sometimes people only, they think like, wow, that coach, they do it all. But a lot of people have teams, and that's kind of where I was like, my expertise in helping someone scale as a personal brand is in that PR, that getting them on podcast interviews, booking them for speaking engagements, getting them the brand campaigns. So that other abundant stream of revenue, which is the PR element, which all those elements kind of fall into that. And that's kind of where myself and my team come in, and we can kind of dissect someone's brand. I think PR for everyone, whether you're a micro influencer or whether you're someone who has 200K and you have all these abundant opportunities coming inbound, I think everyone needs that kind of area of their business streamlined and needs a strategy around it in order to scale to that next level.
I love this because, well, being in the network marketing profession, we were just talking about this before we started recording, but you need to network. It's network marketing, but not even network marketers, like women who are wanting to build their coaching practices online, or fitness instructors that have pivoted because of last year going online. You kind of need to get your name out there. You kind of need to have some type of social presence. And I love that there is a service that provides people to do it so seamlessly and just not have to put the hard work in, because I wouldn't know where to start.
Yeah, and so before we delve into PR, 'cause I think PR is a topic in itself, and like I know there's so many women tuning in who are business owners thinking like, this is something I need to up level in, this is a gap in my business, where did I start? So I want to pick your brain about that.
Yeah.
But before I do, I'd love to know, even with your own business journey, how did you go after you've got clarity on this idea, you've seen a gap in a market, like you can solve a problem for some entrepreneurs. How did you then transform that idea to building a team, and especially going from Canada to LA, where did you know anyone? Like,
Oh my
how
God,
did you
I
start
knew
building a
not a
network?
soul. Not a soul. And that's the funny part. It's like a lot of people joke with me who meet me and they're like, you know more people than people who've lived here their whole life. And I get that all the time. And I love it because I love connecting with people. And I think it's a superpower. And I think that's why I decided even to go full into PR. So when I started my agency here in LA, called Grow the Social, it was a branding and PR agency. So a lot of the work I did initially with a lot of influencers and personal brands was that brand strategy piece. So also helping them on how they're positioning themselves online. But the thing is, I've only worked with personal brands, so that was like my competitive advantage, because there's so many marketing agencies here in LA, but they all kind of work with consumer facing brands, and they don't speak the language of like a coach or consultant, a network marketer. And a lot of my clients actually were like multiple 6-7 figure earners who are network marketers, because you are coaches, you're leaders in the space. And how do you scale your business? You have to make sure you're showing up online strategically, you're on the right podcast to scale your message, you're partnering with the right brands that align. It can kind of just continue scaling. And through that work of doing so much brand strategy and positioning and brand clarity work with clients, it ended up being like that next level in their business is the PR. Because once you kind of got your brand voice dialed in, like you guys, like you know who you're speaking to, you know what kind of content that speaks and serves your audiences, you're like, okay, you have that on lock. Like the social strategy and how you're showing up, it's a part of your life. But then that next phase, which I find is like that clientele who's like ready to scale up, it's the PR. And it is a job, right? You need someone to kind of tackle that area, get you into different opportunities and vet opportunities that come inbound. So I think also just through doing that for myself, my whole thing with PR too is like not being like, that's why I feel like the clients I work with, I really relate and connect with them on that energetic level, because I don't like it when it's just so transactional. Even with brands that we work with, it's if it's aligned with the client, then it's a seamless partnership. But with my own journey, I started my podcast too so organically because I was connecting with all these wonderful people. And then I decided to start my podcast where I could kind of share these interviews and these stories. And that kind of also really, really helped me scale having my own podcast, because then you guys know, it's such it's a way to connect, but then also because you have a show, you're constantly thinking in the back of your head, okay, like I need to connect with new people. So I think having the podcast, number one, then also I'm a huge fan of always being uncomfortable. Like I think moving here and not knowing a soul, I had no choice but to make sure every night, this was pre-COVID, right? So every night, especially in LA, there's always events. One of the things that blew my mind about Los Angeles is that there's so many events. Like entrepreneurs host their events here, those like summits or workshops. So there's always like those bigger events that are always held in LA. Number two, I just found like Soho House, WeWork, like all these places, PR events, there were so many events every night, and that's kind of what blew my mind. In Toronto, there would be an event here and there in the month or bi-monthly, and here in LA there's something every night. So I think not knowing anyone, I would always scout out and plan out my calendar to the fullest with just different ways I can go meet people who would be aligned, like female entrepreneur events, and then connecting with abundant people. They introduce you to people. Like with having the podcast, I met people and then they're like, you need to meet so and so. So once you just start, I feel like, and you put that positive intention out there, it'll compound. But you have to be the biggest thing too when I get asked this question is like you have to do it from such a genuine why, because I think a lot of people can smell when someone's trying to connect for the sake of like getting something, but you have to, it's an equal, it has to be an abundant value exchange where you're gonna go meet someone for coffee, but like you're not just like, I want to pick your brain, because that's so unappealing to the person on the other side. Maybe they'll do it as a favor, so I know people say yes to that, but it is like you have to know your value add, and it's such an equal exchange. So I think if anyone's here listening and wants to start connecting with people, think about what you can bring to the table and give out value, because people will come back and bring it, and it's just going to keep evolving, and it's all abundance, and it'll keep on growing from there.
So powerful. And I think, I don't know if you have you done much on personality tests? Like you're definitely like, you're an extrovert. Like I'm assuming you get your energy from people, you love people.
Yeah, but then I have to introvert hard. So one of the things about LA, one of my non-negotiables here, I know like when I moved here, I was like big price shock from moving from a small town. But one non-negotiable, I was like, I'm going to work as hard as I can, because I am not having 5 roommates like a lot of people do when they first move out here. I was like, I'm going to hustle so I can afford the high rent to live alone, because at the end of the day, I need to introvert.
Because I was gonna say, listening to you going to like live events every night and networking that way, that sounds like a nightmare to me. Like I being an introvert, and I think that just freaks me out. So like, were you excited about those events? Did you have to give yourself a pep talk?
my
Like
God.
how would you go in? Because I think there'd be so many girls listening to this being like, oh my gosh, she's amazing. I wish I was a powerhouse like her. I wish I had that confidence. Did you have to give yourself a pep talk? Like when did you read books on how to network, or did that just all come naturally to you?
I think because I always say to people, put skin in the game, because then you have no choice. So for me, with moving from Canada, I was like, wow, Ayesha, you have like 6 months here to figure out the visa. You need to go out, put yourself out there, learn the space, meet people who may want to work with you. You just don't have any. And then I think that because I was very just like driven with the goal, I had to give myself pep talks. I'm an early person and I like to go to bed by 9. So if an event's at 7, I'll still be home by like 9. I'll make sure. But I have this thing that I always say, and all my friends know this. If I'm not going to show up at 10 out of 10 Ayesha energy, I'm not going to go, because I'm just going to do myself and other people a disservice. And I'm really big on that. So if I'm going to go to something and like perk up and have a matcha, have a coffee and go, I'm going to bring a 10 out of 10 Ayesha. So maybe I show up for an hour, but it's my 10 out of 10 self. So I can make the impressions I need to and leave. Because that's another thing. Like you want to come from such a good energetic spot. Like don't go to an event if you don't want to be there, but find out what the intrinsic why behind going to this event is, and it'll light you up. So maybe you just start with like going to like one event a week or one a month, or one coffee a week, and start small. And the blessing with COVID is that the events are like, so there's no events anymore, so everything's virtual, and people are so open to connecting. Like you and I were like, it's so easy, like there's no reason why we can't do a coffee, versus like when you're doing it in person, people can cancel. It's like more things, like especially in LA. I remember like there's so much traffic now. Traffic's back, and it's like a little bit more resistance. I'm like, wow, this coffee is actually going to take me 3 hours, not 1 hour to just go have the coffee. So I think right now more than ever, it breaks down all the barriers with online. So if anyone's listening, make a hit list. I get into strategy. Make a list of people you dream to connect with, and then start connecting to even, I always like, you can even dissect it. Like, see, this is what I've been doing for the podcast. Like, even going back of like, okay, how many degrees of connection am I away? And as you start building your network, you're closer and closer. Like as much as like LA, when I first moved here, was like, oh my God, it's so big. once I started meeting people, I'm like, wow, it's so small. Everyone knows everyone and you're not far. But I would just say, like, start even just messaging 10 new people on Instagram. But coming from a super genuine place, like how you and I connected, we voice noted and it was so sincere. It wasn't like a copy paste, you know?
Exactly. It's so powerful.
And it's so easy.
I think for like any introvert, it's so easy to be like, that's not me. I can't do that. But I love what you said. You were just like, it was kind of like do or die for you. It was like, if I don't do this, I don't have a business and I need to stay here. I want to stay here. I don't want to go back to Canada. So I think people just have to have that mentality of like, well, if I don't go out there and network, I don't have a business. Like, I don't have a foundation to work off. Like, I just have a hobby and I'm just, getting nowhere. So I love that. And I'm like you, Loz, like networking events kind of scare me a little bit because I'm that person who's like, should I go up to people and talk to them or they're going to come to me? Like, what's going to happen here? But you know what? We should challenge each other and we should just go to one.
I went to one, actually, it was so funny. It was a test to myself. I got invited to like an influencer event a month ago. I haven't even spoken to you about it. It was for the last makeup brand.
Yeah.
I felt like I was in high school again. I got there because I was doing the 75
like
high
that at
jump.
events too. We're all
I couldn't have a cocktail, and all the other girls had a cocktail in their hand. I couldn't drink alcohol. And I was like, I just need something so I don't look so awkward. And I like, if only, like, I love this because I think girls look up to us in business. We've been in business in this profession for 5 years, and I love, like you said, I've built my entire business online and building genuine relationships. Being an introvert, I'm happy to network, but I want one-on-one time where I get to know and have a deep and meaningful conversation. I'm not someone who can walk into a room and just go and talk to anyone like, hey, I'm Lauren. But at this event, I had to. I remember sat there for about 5 minutes, and if only I could have recorded like my self-talk. I'm like, Lauren, why are you here? You shouldn't have come here. Go home. You don't fit in. And then I was like, Lauren, put your big girl pants on. Walk up to them and introduce yourself and smile. I was like, okay, I can do it.
Yeah. Once you start too, it gets easier. Like that's the thing that then it felt off for me to like, COVID was a whole thing. It felt so off for me to be like home all the time and not be at like a PR event, especially with like a lot of brand events are here. It felt like off. So like the thing is, like once you start and then you realize how nice people are and how grateful they are that you made the intro, and then also you see the positive outcomes from that. Like I'm not saying like the next day you're gonna strike a business deal, but like you build that relationship, you nurture it, and maybe I just had this with like someone who reached out to me yesterday and we had a call. It was like a relationship I nurtured maybe 8 months ago, because relationships, I don't know if we'll get into this, but like relationships you have to nurture them. You can't just like, once you make the connection, you have to follow up, you have to check in, you have to add value. And then later it can come back and they can bring you leads for your business because you're constantly checking in. It's and it works both ways, right? And I think once you start and you see like anyone listening, like once you start doing it and you're like, wow, me going to that event, like there was one event I went to here in Orange County and I didn't know a soul. And I remember that event, I got 3 clients months later from that, high ticket clients for the work that I'm doing. And it's just crazy because if I didn't go to that event, if I didn't put myself out there to 100 women who were there, I wouldn't even have gotten the 3. Like it's just, you see after like what it can do.
Hey there, we are briefly interrupting this episode to bring to you a very exciting and time-sensitive offer that I think you are going to absolutely love. If you follow us on social media, you know that we, Shan and Loz, are extremely passionate about holistic health. We love to empower people all around the world with their wellness, whether it is their spiritual health, their mental health, their physical health, or their emotional health. We have wrapped our passion around a beautiful business called the HSC, otherwise known as the Health Style Emporium. And so for the month of June, it is literally only $50 to start your business. It has been heavily reduced for this very short time, and it is absolutely free for you to start your business with us. if you live in the USA, Canada, Mexico, and some parts of Europe. So if it has been on your radar to learn more about how you can be a part of our team, whether you are an ambassador or a business builder, if you have wanted to learn how it works, how we get paid, what it entails, what your day would look like, how much time you would need to put into it, how this looks around mum life or uni life or work life, please get in touch. The best way to learn more information is to contact us on Instagram. Please message Shani or Lauren on our personal Instagram channels. And you only need to contact one of us. Just connect with whoever you resonate with the most, and we'll be able to get all your questions answered and share all the information with you. And just to remind you guys, this offer is only until the end of June if you live in Australia or New Zealand. The $50 offer to start your business, to get weekly training, one-on-one mentorship, your own website, dropship, and an income producing business for $50 up until the end of June. And it is absolutely free for you to start your business if you live in USA, Canada, Mexico, and some parts of Europe. That finishes and expires at the end of August. So get in touch. We'd love to hear from you. But for now, let's get back to this epic episode. Well, like sometimes networking with people isn't about even having a business deal. Like I know for us, Loz and I went to a speaking event. It was a couple of years ago now, and there was a speaker there, and she was awesome. She was our age, and she just spoke so well. And after the event finished, I remember going up to her and just having a quick chat, like just thanking her for her awesome value that she gave. And we just started chatting, and then we followed each other on Instagram. And I think Loz, maybe you had already were following Anna. I don't know, but it's been like 2-3 years since that event, and that relationship has turned into just like a genuine beautiful friendship. And this girl is in a completely different network marketing company to us, but she's just become such a good friend. And at the end of the day, like, it's not about business, it's actually just about a friendship and a relationship. And I think that's what's so, people get so caught up in the whole like, I'm here to build my business, I'm here to like make money or get leads or whatever. But you know what? Sometimes the most beautiful part of networking is that you just make great, great friendships as well.
And that's, I think, should be always the intent, because then so much abundance comes from that. And even if it's like collaborations or like whatever it is, I think that that's been the biggest growth factor of my business. And the scale. A question I get asked from friends in my circle here is, Ayesha, how are you scaling your podcast so much with the type of guests you're having on? And honestly, I think it's because of, whenever I always just go with how much value I can give someone and how can I help them after. And then I get like, they're like, oh, you need to meet my friend. And that's exactly how the podcast has just grown, because these heavy hitters are like, oh, you need to meet the founder of this company who's my best friend. But then when there's people who come and they're like, try to sell them, or they try to have them on the podcast and then pitch them, people can smell that from a mile away. So I think it's so important to like focus on like coming from such a genuine place, because it could flow into that. Like that lady Anna who you mentioned, you never know, like the second she knows someone who's interested in something that you offer or a speaking opportunity, you're the first person she's gonna call.
Yeah, that's it.
And I think even any other ladies listening to this, what I've noticed, I think, in business is you grow so much. Business is just a massive personal development journey. And it actually can be really lonely. A lot of us who are working as coaches, or I think that's what I love about the network marketing profession, is that we're working for ourselves, but we're not alone. We've got team, we've got uplines, got sidelines, got mentors. But for a lot of people, when you are growing through business, you're growing so much, and you don't mean to, but you do kind of outgrow old friendship circles. So I think what I love most about going to networking events is you're meeting other women who get it, who get what the journey looks like, who have got skin in the game. And sometimes you don't get that same rapport and that same understanding from your current friendship circle. So I think go to these events, because these people end up being some of your best friends, because they get what you're going through. Because business and entrepreneurship, it's a crazy, magical, spiritual journey, but it's not always an easy or fun one.
Oh, I love that. It's so true. And you're like, there's those sayings about like, you're the average of the people you hang out with. And I think truly what you said about being alone, like I feel that so much in my business at times. And the next level you want to get to, there's people playing the game at that level, and that's where you want to always be like pushing yourself outside the boundaries, because you can just even feel it when you go to those events, the types of conversations you have with those women, and then the types of conversations you may have with people who you're kind of outgrowing. And that's totally cool, right? I always say it's like beautiful how some people are happy with something and some people are happy with whatever makes you happy and fulfilled, right? Success has so many different definitions for everyone, but those events definitely help you find your people. Or you can go to something and be like, oh, those aren't my people, but then you can go to another one and find your tribe.
I love this.
I'd love to talk about what your top tips would be for expanding your network. We've kind of covered a few things. We've spoken about like in-person events and networking. We've spoken about maybe starting a podcast. What about for someone who's like, okay, I don't want to start a podcast? What would be another like way to add value? Do you think like IGTV has still like got it happening, adding value that way, or interviews over Instagram? Like, what's another way?
Yeah. So with my clients too, another great way to connect with a lot of them who don't have podcasts, we've been doing Instagram live collabs, because Instagram's wonderful with the feature of like you can go live at the same time. It notifies both audiences, and it's a great way to like connect. So I was doing lives for a couple months there, like every week, and it's really cool because I got in my own head about doing the lives. I don't know, because I'm so used to the podcast and how it's like behind the scenes, but then it's like it's nice because people always want to hear these conversations and people chime in and out. It's fun it forces you to connect with new people, and then you can form a relationship at the same time. Like time, I know, is so valuable. You can be on social, be active, be growing your brand, talking about something that you're really passionate about, and then also connecting with someone else who's talking about the same thing. And it's such a value add because both of you guys are getting exposure to each other's audiences. And if anyone's listening and is discouraged about like the number of followers, I totally, even being in the PR space and working with brands and constantly talking to brands care so much about the type of audience that you have and the engagement. And that's why I love working with coaches, because their audience is super engaged because they're so polarizing and on brand with what they're passionate about versus someone who's just generic and has a bunch of followers. So I do think the riches are in the niches. So it's such a value exchange when you're on Instagram, and it's really easy, right? Because you just do it on your phone. So I think even that's a good connecting tool, is like offering someone like going live and saying like, let's have a powerful conversation on this. I think it'll serve both of our audiences so abundantly, and you both win and get that exposure. And then always what happens, I think every time, 9 times out of 10 times, you connect a little bit before, do a little FaceTime and be like, okay, let's talk about this 5 minutes before, do the live, then after, you're best friends probably.
I love that. That's really good. I haven't done an
A lot of my
IGTV live
clients, they've been
collab.
doing that and they've been loving it. It's been so cool to meet people. And then also,
How do you even do it?
like go live.
Yeah, you go live on Instagram, and then there's at the bottom it says like invite.
Yeah.
Or like if I jump on, you could invite me on.
I didn't know you could invite someone onto your live.
And then it saves as an IGTV. And then the other thing, what was I going to say on that note? I had like a good note on that escaped me. It'll come back, but
it'll come back to you.
It's just so powerful. I feel like what that can do. Just with connect. The other thing. So another thing you can do once you start, this has been a really cool tool always. It's like after you do any kind of connection, a live, a podcast, or just in general, a phone call connection, like a virtual coffee, you can say like, do you know anyone who I should meet? I'm looking to expand my tribe of like-minded women or men or whoever it is. Do you know anyone who you think I would vibe with energy-wise, that I would value a connection with? People ask this too, and I always give people kudos for asking this, because I think it's so important to ask, and I don't really ask it that much because I feel like I'm so used to just doing it for myself. But whenever I have someone I come across who asks, I love that they ask that, because Of course we do, especially like connectors like us. We're so happy to make that intro. And it's like you connect with one powerhouse woman, you ask her who she knows, she's so happy to make that connection, and you just like, it just can compound that way so much easier. So that's another thing I would really recommend doing.
I love that.
So many golden nuggets. So we've got going to events in person, we've got connecting online and just starting 10 new conversations a day, adding value, voice messaging, connecting over something that's really authentic and sincere. You've got IGTVs or IG lives and doing the collaboration. So you're doing the cross contamination with 2 different networks.
And then asking for an intro.
Asking for referrals, I think is such a smart idea as well. Like if you've got someone who's loving your business, being like, oh, who else do you know that would love this? Or who else do you know would love to be on the podcast? Or who else do you know that works in this space?
Or you can even be, even if you're worried about like even being like business with it, you can even just say, hey, I'm doing this thing where I'm connecting with 10 new women just to expand my network. I would love to know, like, I'm sure you're amazing. Do you know any abundant women just like you who are just as amazing like you that I would enjoy a 20-minute virtual coffee with? I would love a connect or an intro or anything. People are so happy.
How easy is that?
I know, right? It's so easy. It's like, why don't we do it? Sometimes we hear it, and if you're listening, I do the same thing. I like listen to a podcast and I hear someone give all these tips and I'm like, why didn't I do that?
Yeah.
What else you got for us? I'd love to know. Like even personally, when you were building your business, how did you build and network so quickly? Is there anything else that you use that you haven't spoken into?
I truly think getting with the right, like my clientele for the business, I think also that self-awareness piece of like knowing my ideal clientele so strongly. And then once I found like a particular niche that I was serving and I really got their pain points down, I would then go, okay, where are those people hanging out? What, like learning more about that clientele to then further like scale in the area I wanted to. And then moving into the brand space, even with the other thing that's always a fun thing that people love hearing about with PR is like, okay, connections, podcast, people, that's great. How do I start bringing in another stream of revenue through working with brands like 𝗦𝗢𝗔𝗟𝗦 or Netflix or Bumble or this watch company or this swimwear line? That is so much, and this is what I always tell my clients. I'm like, it's all relationship building as well. Like, yes, brands care about the analytics and your platforms and what you're doing, but moreover, they care about partnering with, and moreover, more than ever now, they care about partnering with coaches, influencers, leaders in the space that their brand stands for something. So I'm going to get a little bit like personal development here because I'm a huge personal development junkie. Be so self-aware, know your value adds, because if you can pitch that out when you're talking to people, doesn't matter the number of your following, they're just going to know you're it. And you're the person that they want to work with. And then I'm like, every brand is different, but with a lot of my clients who are under 100K, like 18K, even lower than that, we've been able to lock in partnerships at like 3K, 5K retainers a month, just with working with brands that they really, really love. Because I think that you can get so intentional when you form that relationship with a brand, instead of them being like, okay, Lauren, we want 3 feed posts for this much money. We want this. You can be like, listen, I know my audience and you have a really good relationship with this brand. You can start sharing with them, like, I would love to do a branded Instagram live where we drink your green juice and we talk about it on the live like it's product placement, but then also like you can throw in all these other abundant ideas. This is where like I feel like my work comes in of like why my clients pay me, because I like mastermind these different ways that we can partner with the brands other than just like straight up tangible deliverables of like Instagram. It's like, how can we grow a partnership? Maybe your next event, when we can do events full throttle, like they sponsor it. Like there's so many abundant ways to then even grow relationships with founders of companies and brands to then have bigger deals and think outside the box. Like I know you're in network marketing, but I'm sure you guys host events, and it would be nice to have some like non-conflict of interest brands that can sponsor and be a part of it.
I love that. Well, let's talk more into this because this is what we wanted to really talk to you about as well. Because obviously, your area of expertise is helping people who are in the business space to
Amplify.
expand and yeah. So, like, tell us a little bit about, let's say there's a brand or a company that we are in love with, and we're like, damn, I really want to partner with them. Their ethics, their mission, their values, it totally aligns with Babes Talking Business.
Yeah.
How do we, how, like you as a PR agent or someone who maybe doesn't have a PR agent, what's the first step? How do you connect with that brand and go, look, I want to connect with you guys. I love what you're about. I love your mission. It aligns with me. I'd love to add value to you in some way. Is there like a really great professional way to reach out to another brand
Oh my
like
God.
that?
I'm like, so maybe before I would say like, yes, like email with my team. They like, I always tell them, I'm like, Instagram. That's how we're going to get, because, okay, the biggest thing that I find just being in the space, I've done a billion cold pitch emails. And like, okay, on a website, say that brand was, let's just call the brand like greens.com. Like, say it's a brand called Greens. If you go on that website and you go to contact or PR inquiries, you're going to get a generic email. You're going to get not even like, brands usually have a PR email on the website. So, say instead of like contact or info at greens.com, you're going to get PR or collabs or influencers. But that email is getting so much, and you're probably going to get an automated response back. So what I love to do
Mhm.
is to take it to social media where they can kind of like see like about your brand, and come up with a really genuine pitch that's something super authentic, and ask and just but spark note it like they don't want to see a novel, and then ask if you can have a main point of contact to pitch that idea or that abundant partnership idea you have in mind. But what we want here is we don't want that PR at Green's email. We don't want that. That's why we want to DM to form a
Mhm.
relationship. We want a Jackie at that company, or a Trisha, or a Lauren. We want like a person, because then you can take it from there, and then you can email Lauren. And then whenever I've done that with brands, like there's so many big brands out there that have a PR email on their website. But when I take it to Instagram, and if they give me the right point of contact, then it just changes the game, because now you're talking to a real person who you can pitch ideas to. And I would also say like that's like what we do all the time. But then, and then we nurture those relationships with brands and always check in and follow up. That second note I have is like, don't take, if you get a no, try again. Like there's always ways to get in. And even if like you're even showing up on social, another great way is like when you actually care about the brand, doing some story shout outs and sharing, because then they might even come to you. That's what happened with Bragg's apple cider vinegar. um I love apple cider vinegar, and like I like got it from, I got a like, they have these like cool kombucha drinks, and I remember I just shouted out in my story, and I really love their brand. And then the PR team ended up reaching out to me and sending me a care package, and then I got to like talk to them, and then connect with who's on the social, and then get a point of contact and a first name basis. And it's really cool how like that's even a way you can do it super organically and see what happens. But just me being, and I know we're all like go-getters, I recommend like asking for what you want and like going after it.
I
And
love that.
I think even just to add on that, that works. Like I'll be really open with you guys listening to the podcast. We get probably 20, 30 emails a week asking people to be on our podcast. In our emails, I delete them all
Mm.
because they're all generic. I can tell someone's paid a PA to go and reach out to all these different
Yeah.
podcasts. The only people we have in our podcast are the people that I've had a conversation with, or Shani's had a conversation with, who have messaged us on Instagram, formed a relationship with. And
Yeah.
even some of the big names we've had on our podcast, it's usually started because I've read one of their books, I've tagged them in a book, and I've started a conversation with them saying, I loved your book. Thank you so
So
much.
powerful. Or shouting them out on
Yeah.
podcasts. I've done that too. Like if I've heard someone I really want to connect with on a podcast, I'll like shout them out. Like, this podcast was amazing, and then they end up thanking you, and then you can form a connection. It's like so easy. It's crazy with social media.
Yeah, Instagram inbox is definitely where it's at. Don't do the generic emails. I can
Yeah.
vouch for
And
that.
don't discourage
Yeah.
yourself too, because sometimes I feel like all the time we think like, oh, they have so many followers or they're verified, they're not going to answer. And I need to say that because I know people listening are thinking that, but even like big influencers or people who have a lot of followers, you'd be so surprised. Like when they get a genuine message, they're responding.
And usually it's the big influencers, that's how they get big, because they actually understand the importance of connection and community. So they're actually investing, and they're usually the ones who are on top of their inbox. They've got someone helping them with their inbox because they know that's how they grow their community and that's how they grow their influence. They value those messages.
Yeah, and even like scaling up from there, it's like even with, I totally understand like there's some big people who like they're never like, I don't know, a movie star. I have some like movie stars on my list for the podcast. And I get it. They're probably not going to be on their Instagram because they have like over 5 million followers. But this is why I'm such a big person about connecting. If you connect to you keep building up your Rolodex of connections and you're nurturing it, when you want an intro, you can make a mind map and see how many degrees of, I'm getting crazy, but you can see how many degrees of connection you are away. And as much as like people think like New York's big, LA's big, like it's really not. And like when you start growing your network, you can realize like whoever it is for you, you're not far away. And then that's how I've gotten some like really big people on my podcast, not through the DM, but through other people I've had who are friends with, or in their circle, and they have their number, and then I got a text. And then that's even better because they don't check their email, they don't check their Instagram, but 5 people have their number, and then I got that text intro. So I just think like, I know that's like even going crazier with the connections, but just gets you so excited for like, you can truly connect to anyone.
Oh my gosh, I'm excited.
Yeah,
we have so many notes.
I know, and I love these episodes because I think every week you get re-inspired, you get new ways of thinking about things. And I think with business and entrepreneurship, there's no right or wrong way, and business is constantly evolving. And we do live in a really interesting and special time where you have technology, and I know a lot of us have a love-hate relationship with it, but it can be your biggest tool if you know how to do it and use it in an authentic and a sincere and a powerful way. It can be really beautiful.
It's so crazy. It's so true. Like, I think it's important to also take social media breaks. As much as like especially us listening and like myself, you guys, we use it for business as well as like personal. I think it's so important to have boundaries with it. That's one of the things I've been really learning. So I feel like I had no boundaries. Just gonna be so straight up. I should probably listen to a podcast on boundaries, more of them, because I feel like I've been always like hustle. And then also just like the other part of me is like so grateful then to have the business. And then I'm like, I have to hustle all the time because I'm so grateful. But then a big thing of the work that I'm doing currently in my own journey is boundaries, because I need to create those boundaries so I can continue to be a fulfilled cup and not burn out. So I also just want to note on that. Like, I know we're harping all these tasks, but honor your energy and your cup too.
I love it. Well, we just want to say thank you so much for being on our podcast. We've loved talking to you. I've learned so much today, and I'm sure our audience has as well. What's a way that our audience can connect with you online?
Well, I'm going to say Instagram for sure. So it's at Ayesha 𝗦𝗢𝗓. I feel like I will have it below, but the spelling.
Yes, we'll have it in the show notes.
Sometimes people like spell it out, but I don't think anyone's writing, when they're listening and they're on the go. And then also I have a podcast called Coffee and a Good Vibe. So that's where I interview a lot of just different entrepreneurs. And I love doing that podcast. Like, much like you guys, it's such a blessing to have that platform.
Yes, we love you. And we'll make sure we connect all those links to the show notes so our guys can find you. But one thing I personally want to say and compliment you on, and I know you spoke briefly into it, and we could talk for hours, but how you honor your energy. Like you said, if you're going to give something and you're going to show up and you're going to connect with someone, take responsibility for your energy. And you're always such a beautiful light. You're always so positive. And like you said, it's an abundance mindset, but I'm sure that's a conscious mindset to have. So thank you for just being that energy and sharing your love and light with our tribe. I know we really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you so much for that. I really appreciate that. I think energy is truly everything, and it's so that self-awareness piece is truly key for that. Because then once you can know your limit, everyone's limits are different, and then you can really just like put yourself always in a place to thrive.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, beautiful. We appreciate you.
I appreciate you guys so much. We got to do this again.
Wow, what an amazing episode. I hope you're feeling inspired after that conversation and empowered to make some changes and choices in your life. Now, don't forget to let us know if you loved this episode. Please give us a 5-star review. It really helps us know that we're on track with serving you guys, and also majorly supports our channel. And you may even be in the running to be the shout out of the week. Every week on Instagram, we share one of our reviews with our network. So please be sure to leave your Instagram handle or your website in your review so we can share you with our amazing community. If you head over to the link in our bio on Instagram at @𝗦𝗢𝗖𝗜𝗔𝗟𝗦, you can get access to so many of our goodies, including the link to our bib shop. It's a crazy cute online merchandise shop that donates 100% of profits to a non-for-profit charity every month. So head over and check out who we're donating to this month and get yourself something super cute to wear. You can also find in our Instagram bio our books. You can get your hands on Life Above Zero by Lauren Kerr or The 4-Year Career with Shani Thompson. Both super easy reads and incredible books to help you expand and evolve in even deeper ways. Now, don't forget to head over to the show notes. You can check out any of the links or the books or the references we mentioned in this episode. And before we go, we just want to say thanks so much for being here, for committing to being the best version of you, and for showing up for you today. You are freaking amazing. Now, if you think that there is someone in your life that could really benefit from this episode, while you're feeling super inspired, please hit the share button and send them this episode right now. And the reason we're asking you to share the love is because you get what you give. And the more that you give and inspire, the more you get in return. Head over to www.babestalkingbusiness.com to check out all of our other podcasts. And we just want to say we are sending you so much love, and we hope to see you soon.